My name is Morgan. This is Jared, and we've been together for almost 4 years now, and we're getting married in June. We met in high school during COVID.
My name's Jose. This is my wife, Kate. We have been married 19 blissful years, 22 total years. So we have been through some good stuff and some rough seasons as well. And I guess we met each other at Ashland University. Yeah. Yep.
I would have to say kind of like not life-saving, but definitely brought me a lot closer to God. Ended up getting baptized like a year after meeting her and being together. And it just kind of saved me.
Oh. When I first met Jared, we were in a show and I was in a mermaid costume and he was in a football costume. And I was like, who's that guy with the blonde hair, to someone? And I just thought he was really cute. And then talking and stuff, he was just really strong, always very strong, seemed very that good masculine energy and very funny and down to hang out and whatever. So yeah, just genuine person. So, yeah.
So when I first met Jose, that would have been freshman, sophomore year of college. And we did not have a relationship with the Lord at that time. So he was, he stood out because he was one of the few Latinos on campus. And I thought he was pretty hot. But he also had all the sorority girls running after him all the time. So I always in my mind thought that kid is trouble and I should steer clear. But he also seemed like a lot of fun. So there was that. And then after we both came to know the Lord during college, there's a huge change in him. And really what I began to see in him is that he was a leader. He was super focused and just really steadfast in his faith. And those are the things that really drew me in.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I feel like a lot of married couples will be attracted to opposites. And so that's what attracted me to Kate. She was very outgoing. She was just very lively and just full of energy. And so that was what attracted me to her.
I just think if you don't, I know when we first got in a relationship, I never thought this. The closer we become to God and have Him at the center, we'll be good. Nothing will happen. No rough times will happen, but it's total opposite. Whenever we get super close to Him, that's when we get attacked the most. And without Him, there's just no way you get through those tough times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, I think for the 4 years, 19, we've been together for only 4, but we've been through so much. There were so many things, we started dating right during COVID, and it was and we have some family things happen, deaths in the family. My mom was sick, and so we had these things, he had some health issues, so it was we were really getting into a mature relationship, even though it only been a few years. So, but I felt like we've always been able to, go back to Jesus because without Him, we feel we're kind of stranded. You know what I mean? What's the purpose of the relationship? So that's what's, we've always had to go back to that. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, I have so many different thoughts. I could go so many ways with this. So I think it's been important to keep God first for so many reasons, because if God's not first, then something else is, obviously, and anything else is probably going to lead you in the wrong direction. I think I recently heard someone talk about the Bible and our relationship with God. A lot of times we look at it like it's a map, right? This is how you get to this place. And we can sometimes treat it that way. And then what ends up happening is when you don't end up in the place that you think you ought to go, you get disappointed, right? And where it's more of a compass, if we treat it like a compass. And it just kind of keeps you true north, right? And so putting God first is what keeps you true north all the time. It's like a constant redirect of priorities, right? Where your attention and your affection should lie, right? How you're treating one another, how you're responding and reacting. Really, there's just so many things that are vying for that place, that first place. And in life, I feel like we should expect disruption, right? Like that's the common theme in life, right? And in humans, we're frail. And we would be silly to think that putting anything above God is going to always lead us in the right direction. So
I like how you put that with the compass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've realized, like, just over the time of being married, there's no possible way for us to be right unless my relationship with God is right. Because, like, the relationship with God gives me the overflow to be able to be the husband that she deserves or be the father that our kids deserve. And if that relationship isn't right, like, I don't have the energy, I don't have the capacity, I have a sinful nature, right? And so, like, unless I'm filled this way and be able to overflow, then I can be the spouse that she deserves.
I also, if I could add one more thing, like, I feel like in the beginning of our relationship, I was like, oh, this is perfect and he needs to be perfect. And I had these huge expectations. But then I was like, in our second year of our relationship, I was like, I got to give it to God because I'm putting this above God. And like, I feel like he taught me that our relationship needs to be a surrender to him. And like, we're never going to be enough for each other, but God is enough. Yeah. So that will, like you said, like fill in the gaps of what like we need to be for each other. And we're still learning that and we're continuing to learn that. But I feel like I learned that our second year so I just like was like, God, you have to use us in how you want us to. So, Yep.
And I mean, with dating during COVID, like, we got to go up to Michigan with her family and we didn't work and we were together all the time. So once reality came back a little bit and we weren't focused on God when we were up there. And then once reality came back, we had to fully commit to him because it just wasn't
nothing's
reality.
ever going to be perfect. And like us, I just know like, I can't compare myself to like what people say would be the society's way of a perfect relationship. I need to go back and be like, what does God say about this? And I have to like I can't hold Jared at such a high standard when I am failing at other things. I hope that makes sense. But just have God fill in those gaps for our character and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I definitely lack with getting into the Word, but one small thing we do every night is we read Jesus Calling devotional together, and we'll pray together and just pray over certain things. We probably should pray in person together more, but
it's kind of hard. We're not living together
yet.
Especially
When once we get married, that will
over
be
the phone.
A little easier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I really feel like
I don't know what you're going to say.
I know, you're nervous. Okay, so I feel like when newlyweds are like hitting the altar, I feel like every pastor should just be like, listen, all your great squishy feelings, they have gotten you to this point. And really, I feel like up until that point, like that's been, I am sure it's not, you just not coasted right into the altar. You've had to go through some things and figure some things out. But I really feel like at that point, pastors really need to like say, this is when intentionality, like you better get feisty with it. Like you are going to have to be just on it with being intentional with your relationship with Christ.
Well, I think the world just throws so many distractions at you that if you're not like 100% honed in on one, your faith, and then two, serving your spouse, you're just going to have a bunch of distractions that like come at you and easily get you off track.
Right. Yeah. We're not enough in of ourselves. Like, let's not try to fool ourselves into believing that we're just going to constantly be motivated. Like you have to have daily rhythms. You have to start setting those things. And it's a lot of little things. Like it's things like I know every night when as we're falling asleep, I can always feel his hand reach over on me.
And she's like annoyed by it.
because sometimes I think he's looking for something else and I'm like, I'm tired.
I'm just praying.
However, but he's praying over me. I know that. So I have to decipher like, wait, what is, no, he's praying. Okay.
Just pretend you start snoring.
I know. He's praying over me every night. And every morning when he leaves, he typically leaves the house before I do. And so I stand out on our front porch and I pray him out of our driveway. And he knows anytime, he can look back and I'm going to be standing there. And I think it's little things like that. Above that, I would say community. I mean, I cannot say enough about community. Like, they are the ones that hold you accountable. They are the ones that when the bottom falls out, and it will, they will hold hope for you when you can't hold it for yourself. They will encourage you and give you courage and hold you upright, and so you can find your legs again. I cannot say enough about being intentional, about having some folks around you, and it doesn't have to be a lot of folks, that will help sturdy you, right? So I would say those are probably some of our more practical things.
How long did it, I have a question for you guys. How long did it take, like, to get to that point, like, where you guys had those rhythms? Like,
2 weeks ago. Yeah. No, I mean, it's been a progress. I mean, we have 4 kids, and we've had some real ups and downs with them, some real wins and some real setbacks. And I think it's just been like a complete development of things that, like, I think for me, I fall into my faith the most when things are going the worst, like, right? And so I think when we're on a mountaintop, that's easy to have, like, to kind of like get away from your faith. And I think during our rough seasons, it's really been when we had to like dig into our faith. And then from there is when we build out new practices. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you pivot. Like, we've had to make a lot of pivots because there's seasons, right? Yeah. And sometimes, a lot of times, oftentimes, like, right change is the big constant. You start to realize that things that used to work don't work anymore. And so you have to make this pivot into, okay, we no longer can get all 6 of us around a table for dinner every night. And that used to be something that we could do. And that no longer works. 2 of ours are out of the house now, or sports center, or whatever, insert it. And so you have to pivot and make sure that, okay, maybe that's not working for us anymore. We have got to figure out what's going to replace that. How are we going to be intentional in another way that works for us in this season? And so I think there's a constant adjustment there, right?
Yeah. Communication, big communicating, like,
say it, girl. Yes.
Constantly.
Yes.
Yeah, I will talk all day. I will literally, and he's like a man of few words, and he says things. I'm like, but I would say another practical thing that we do, we serve in student ministry. It's hard to stay on, because it's every week and we love it. But, when life happens, like, I'm like, we gotta get there. And we've been doing that for how long? He got me into it.
I think May after June this year would be my 3rd year.
Okay. So, no, that's been really cool, like, for us to go serve together and then, like, talk about it at the end of the night. And then we have our community there with the leaders there. I mean, everyone, like, really, asks how you're doing. And, yeah, I would say that too. Yeah, and serving and trying to stick to that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Serving alongside with one another. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's pretty major. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, last year I broke my ankle and my leg, and that was hard just because I love watching church online and stuff, but to not be there, to not be at midweek when she's there, that was hard. And then also in the summers, like when we go visit her family in Michigan, like we don't have many spots to go serve or go worship the Lord, and that's hard parts. But then once we get into that rhythm, and like the year that we went to the middle school camp and like we got to serve together there, which was hard to like be energized for the kids for a full week and do all those activities. But yeah, there's definitely some highs and some lows.
I would say, like, even during the time with your leg, like, I feel like we're at our highest though, even though, like, faith and like a spiritual way, because like right after that, isn't that when you bought my ring? Yeah, like, we, like, that brought us even closer, because I stepped into this posture of, okay, I need to serve and take care, but then, that we, I just had to take care of him in that moment. So I would say even in, like, hardest moments, like, we still, like, turned back and, like, would pray together. And so, but I would say, just to be transparent, right now, I feel like we're, like, trying to find our rhythm, like, in this transition of, like, being dating to engaged to married. Like, that's a lot in a whole year, So I'd say, like, right now with life being busy and like, you can't seem to, like, meet with all the people you want to meet with and do all the things and the work, and we got to make money and we got to do this and make sure we're together as well, and he's okay and I'm okay. So we kind of, like, lose each other in that. So I think it's just, we need to have, and it's hard to communicate because we're not living together and we barely see each other really, to talk about those things. And we don't like talking on the phone. But I would say that it goes up and down, very much so. And, but when, like what you said, when we were at Round Lake, like, and when we're serving or when we're like, you know, we love to go on a missions trip, like that's when you have your highs, you know.
And I think too, like just hearing what you guys are walking through, like I could say that we definitely walked through that season too as, you know, as newlyweds. And I think something that comes with just, I'd say like emotional maturity and just you're really working hard on your spiritual formation, you know, as you mature, some of those, you catch some of those things quicker, right? Mm-hmm. You start to realize it a lot earlier on, like, wait a minute, like this, I'm really impatient, or what I just said had zero grace to it, or that was not a good, and so I think I would like to say that we're a little bit quicker at putting the brakes on, right? When we have a conversation that's going off in a wrong direction, or we feel a sense that we need some space, or we need to pray about this, right? That's not to say that we don't, you know, like there's not moments where I want to hit him in the face with a chair, because those happen. But at least now, instead of things just being verbally processed by my emotions, I'm able to take a pause, you know, pray about it. Like that's huge, right? And maybe gain some more godly perspective than just running with the impulsivity of my feeling in that moment. I would say that's, I mean, I guess he's asking what are some hard, I mean, we've been through...
Yeah, 22 years.
We've been through some dumpster fires.
Yeah, 22 years, 4 kids, 4 teenagers at one point. Yeah, we've had seasons, to say the least.
We have some stories.
And I think what I have really appreciated is that we knew we've been on this journey, and the journey doesn't end without us being together, right? Like that was never been on the table. That homicide might have been on the table, but not divorce. But like, we knew that we were in this together, and that we knew that there's going to be seasons that are tough, and that seasons that were unexpected, and that as long as we still had our faith and we still had each other and we still communicated at a high level, like that was really what kept us through those times of like those really difficult places. And looking back, like, to me, that's been the time when I've had the most spiritual growth, is like through those trying times. I would never wish them on someone, but at the same time, like it's also been where I've seen the most growth in our relationship and with my relationship with God.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about those moments, or those seasons that just force you on your knees and your face for each other. And I will say that in those moments, like, you as the leader of our family and as my spiritual covering, I've always felt like if I have an issue or one of our kids have an issue, you as our covering, like Jose better be on his face too, because guess what? Jose's got an issue. Like, and you've always done really well at carrying that. Yeah, well, we do say that all the time. Like, which one of us gets to freak out on this one? Because it's only one of us, and we take turns. But you've done really good at always redirecting and pointing our family back to Christ. And I think that's what's made the difference.
We've been doing this for 22 years, and we've messed up a lot, right, throughout those 22 years. And what comes to my mind when I think of like how I can serve my wife or how I can have a deeper relationship with my wife is, in Scripture, it talks about both of us submitting to each other, right? And so for me, what that looks like is it's a race to the back of the line. Like, who can outserve? How can I outserve her? How can I go throughout my day and serve her? And I get it wrong all the time. And the only way I get it right is by having that faith in God and having that overflow of my relationship with Him.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I think I would just go back to the best advice I could give from my many fails would be, since we know that, there's just life has suffering. Life has, we've got some great mountaintop experiences, but we got a lot of valleys. And so to do everything you can just to fortify the ship, right? And for us, that's meant working on our own. Like, I'm responsible for my own spiritual formation. Jose's responsible for his. Together, we're responsible, right? But I, by myself, also have to constantly be pursuing. And that, for me, looks like my just daily getting quiet, like praying, really contemplative prayer practices. I'm always digging into good books. I'm always seeking knowledge. I'm asking a lot of questions, always the questions, like always stay curious, right? I'm always asking, like, is what I'm doing, is it helping? Is it helpful? Is this no longer helping? Is this healthy? Like, so many questions around what we're doing, right? And part of that's just living an examined life. But the community that I can't stress that enough. And like, our church is really good about trying to offer up areas for people to find community. And sometimes it's just really, really hard to step out, but we really need those folks around us to help hold us up and to help hold us together. And I just prayer, people, and I think just knowing that, just having an expectation that there's going to be hard and that we're going to get through this together. And honestly, a lot of my prayers just come from, there's a verse in Colossians where it says, he goes before all things and holds all things together. And sometimes, like, that is just the simplicity of my prayer for us is, God, hold us together, hold me together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, like, just advice to, like, people that maybe aren't in a church or trying to get into church. Like, I grew up in a church, but had a bunch of obstacles in my life and divorce and all different things. So, like, when I met her, like, I had to be vulnerable. I had to set that pride or ego aside. I had to get into a community, even though I thought it was weird at the time. And just to see her and her family have God first, and, like, my dad through hard things, and my family, just to see God through it all, and just to be vulnerable in those times.
Mm-hmm. I would say my advice to people who are, trying to search for, like, God in their relationship or wanting to know what that is. I grew up always knowing Christ at a very young age, and I honestly don't know how anybody gets through it without that. I know it's so cliche, but I really don't, because he's just there and there's purpose to it. I would say that I'm trying to gather my words here. Not having, I guess, a really good thing, especially, like, in our generation too, like, not to look at the social media of things and to look at the society and the media of things, because I compare myself, and I know that, comparison is the enemy, and I think, like, oh, we need to be doing this and that, and they're doing this, and they're doing it. Oh, like, what does God say about what, like, he wants us to do? And we're going to keep practicing that always. I would say just something to keep in mind in a relationship, like a dating relationship or engaged relationship, is the purity and striving for that in the relationship, because there's a reason why God meant for those boundaries to be set up. It was to protect us and protect his, the oneness of a man and a woman. And and the enemy is gonna, like, trip you up, and he's gonna want to, like, tear those things down, and he's gonna want to really tempt you. And he wants that. But if we, put those boundaries up and talk about purity and what God wants for that, it's gonna protect us and protect our hearts, because he wants us to guard our hearts in a way. So by following Christ and trying to put him at the forefront, just by simply saying, Jesus, we need you, like, trying to gather those thoughts together. I just tell Jesus, I'm like, Jesus, like, I need you, refine me what I need to be for Jared, refine Jared what he needs to be for me. And then ultimately that will guard our heart and our relationship, and try to put that at the forefront.
And, like, I heard this thing, like, a while ago, like, if you don't, like, feel the wrath of the devil, or you don't feel temptation, like, you're doing something wrong, because he doesn't need to tempt you anymore, because you're already fallen to that. And, like, I feel like in high school I did that, and, like, earlier when I said, like, the closer you're to God, the more you're going to feel that temptation, which I never knew. And, like, it's so hard, but I'd rather have those obstacles than just live in temptation and live with what the devil wants you to do.
We had those temptations that, like, we had to, like, work through in the beginning of our relationship, that many people have to, and we got convicted of things, and we had to pray and try to seek out. There's not a lot I mean, it's good to talk to other people, but that's like uncomfortable thing to like bring up to somebody. So, and I growing up, I never was given like a purity talk ever. And like even in like church, like my parents obviously like told us about that, but I just never had it in church and didn't know about like what's too close to the line or far from the line, you know what I'm saying? And Brian was actually the first person to like do that in church, and I was a leader at midweek. And I was like, I'm so grateful for that our church talks about that at least once or a couple times a year, because people need that so bad, because it just destroys everything. And I've seen it in like friends and family where it's like hurt people if those boundaries aren't put up, and you just feel so awful, you know, and that Satan wants us to be tempted by those things because they seem so great and he'll give you everything, but it just, we have to set those boundaries up. And also I wanted to say a verse, my favorite verse, it's Romans 8:31, I think. And it's what I've stuck to with our relationship is Jesus, you know, talks about nothing can be separated from him. Like we can never be separated from him. Like nothing can ever, like rulers, kings, queens, you know, heaven or earth, nothing can separate us from him. So I feel like I've stuck onto that verse because sometimes when we feel like disconnected, I like look back at that and like, we can't be separated from him. Like we have him in our heart. And then that helps me feel like I can't be, like that's not even an option for us not to be together. You know, we never even think that because nothing can separate us from Jesus and from each other. So if we look to that, then there's like hope and strength in that. So I hope that makes sense. But
I just want to add this for what it's worth. Y'all can use this or not, but I just want to say this for folks that are just really struggling right now, for couples that are really struggling. Like we've been there multiple times, but in one of our struggle moments, we had been at each other. We were not seeing eye to eye at this point in time, and I feel like our family as a whole was just coming unwound. It was not good. And Jose pulled me into our closet. This is where all our big talks happen, right? Because when you have 4 kids, you have to go somewhere quiet, and ours happened in our closet. But he pulled me into the closet, and he just looked at me and he was like, listen, this is you and me, right? This is you and me and God, and we are going to get through this. And he just reestablished that commitment to me, and it meant everything, because then I felt like we were back on the same page together, and like we've got this. And we got on our faces, and it's like it just realigned everything back. And it wasn't like we had all the answers then, and everything was just solvable, and there was no more tension. But what I think we were able to do was walk through that tension, right? Because there was no way around it. We walked through it, and we were able to come out the other side whole and healthy, and eventually healed, and most importantly, together. And I think that's what it looks like going through something and being able to keep God first.
And it's all it took for you to just be like, we got this, right? Like, obviously, isn't it crazy how you're like, oh, I guess we do, you know? Like, why was that happening? Like, that like small intentional thing of him just pulling you aside, being, we got this. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we do.
Yeah,
That's
because,
awesome.
I mean, honestly, like the world, Satan, everything that comes in, it obviously wants to tear us apart, but you have all of this, these interior messages then that start to make you think that you're looking at the enemy.
Right.
And that they're the problem.
Like we're on the same side.
Yeah.
Right.
Like we're going to fight this together, and we've got God. Yeah. So we've got this.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
What?
You go ahead.
I'd probably have to say just being late to everything.
Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Drive out these demons. Good Lord.
I thought you were going to say me, like, I love eating ice. I know that's kind of weird, but
Yeah,
he won't he literally, like, I'll start to eat it, and he'll go, and he'll see me be like, what are you doing? What's in your mouth? I'm like, nothing. He hates that. Oh, but I've got important things to do, right? Sorry. I would get there Fashionably
I
late.
understand. Men should just know that.
Yeah, we got lots of things to do. We got
for
makeup.
the rest of
we
my
got
life,
hair.
I'm going to be late because I'm waiting on this lady. You should just know that.
So a pro tip after 22 years, whatever time you want to leave by, you give a buffer. So if it's 5:30 you need to leave by, I say 5:15, we gotta leave, and I'm in the car at 5:15, but I know we got some buffer time.
I'm on the brink of that. I was getting real close to that. Yeah.
Just have to be strategic about it.
Oh, I gotta think of mine. You guys have yours?
Is that yours? That I'm late?
Sure.
I feel like,
Go with
oh,
that.
come
That's
on.
a safe space. I'm gonna say that. Late. That's good. It's good. I have to go home with you later. It was late.
Yeah, this was an unfair question, but so I would say one of the things that drives me crazy. So he's in real estate, so he's on the phone a lot, right? And always there's a little ear thing in. And what drives me nuts is he comes in from after a long day to the house, and we're all in there with lots of activity and all the things happening, but he's on a call. And so it's like we're conditioned now to all be like, and we all just like, all the activity stops, but he still talks very loud. and he has to enunciate his name in such a way because I don't know, there's just not a lot of Jose's around or what, but he's always like, this is Jose Medina, and he's always super loud, and it just reverberates through our whole house. Like everyone knows when Dad is home because he's on the phone and he's enunciating his name. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Do you have one?
I do. I just have to think which one. I'm kidding.
So many to pick
I know.
I would say, I'm sorry. It's not bad. There's not bad things. Probably,
Oh, she's got none.
you know, no, but I just can't think of it. I have a hard time with my words sometimes.
Watching football too much?
Yeah, football, I guess. I have a hard time, like, I guess if, like, he's like, oh, football. He's like, it's one day a week. I'm like, it is not. You are lying to me. It is multiple times a week. And if it's not his team and it's another team, and if it's not that, they're watching the stats on it. And I'm just like, I love you and I love this, but can we?
Like 18 out of 52 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then The Bachelor's on now, you know? And I'm like, if I can sit, and I went to the Buffalo Bills game freezing, and I can watch football, you can watch The Bachelor with me. And he's like,
It's not
okay.
the same.
But
I made it through however many seasons of Downton Abbey, so you can watch The Bachelor, bro. You'll be fine.
Oh, Medina. Medina walks in this
You
week.
can only get one thing to say.
No, listen. Some things are coming up. This is good though. I take mine back. This is it. He walks in this week with a speaker, a very fancy looking speaker, and it must have been at his office. And he walks in and he sets it on the counter. And I'm sitting there with a couple of my kids, and we're like, oh, that's a nice speaker. What's that for? And he was like, I'm going to use it when I work out, because he goes down in the basement usually every evening and works out. And we're like, oh. And my son and I just look at each other because we're like, that is so awesome that we're going to be able to hear your music on that giant speaker. And sure enough, last night, AC/DC and all this stuff. I mean, my neighbors, everyone, within a 5-mile radius probably heard this speaker coming from our basement. It was awesome.
That was two
But I'm
things.
so grateful that you work out. I'm all about your health, though, honey.
okay, I have one. So I would say it's like an emotional thing though, because I would say I'm an empath. And I can feel people's like emotions really heavy. And for him, I know something's wrong. I can feel it. I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, nothing's wrong. And then it builds up. And then he just, and I'm like, I told you something was wrong. So that's a thing that I'm like, we got to work on. But I don't know.
It's like nothing is ever wrong, like right in that moment. It's like always stuff that's built in the back. I'm like, how did she know? Like that's like days, weeks. Like that's not even.
And I'm over here like, and he's like, and then like, out of the blue, we'll just be talking, and he just starts opening about his emotions. I'm like, whoa, let me sit down. Let me get a piece of paper. What's going on? So, But no, our biggest fight was about actually my like chewing. We were in the car on our way to Michigan and I was eating chips and I was hungry. And then he was like, can you just like stop eating? And I said, no. I was like, my like independent woman in me was like, I'm gonna keep eating them. And that was our biggest fight. We didn't talk like the rest of the way home.
It's a long
But
credit.
yeah, but nothing. I'm sure when we move in together though, after June, some things will pop up.
All the things change when you start moving.
Oh, yeah. I will tell you something that's been helpful because I will say that he is the picture of.
Done recording.
That's fine. They don't have to record this. No, he is like the picture of like calm equanimity, right? And I have some very robust emotions, right? Like, you know, how people have to take their thoughts captive. Kate has to take her emotions captive because they are usually 15 miles ahead of any kind of logic for me. And he's the opposite, which is great because, like you said, that balances us out, right? He's very logical and very objective, and that is great. However, not forthcoming with emotions, right? Ever. And yet I can sense these things, and I want to talk about the things now. I want to talk about all the things with all the words right now. Let's dig in. And that is not, nor is it probably ever, how this man is going to function. So something that has been very helpful to me is to learn that it doesn't all have to be in Kate's time. It is really hard to like hold back on that. So journaling helps a little bit, but just holding back on that and knowing. And then also like, there's got to be some give there. Like, y'all have to be vulnerable sometimes. Like that's, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but I think that's something you've had to learn too, is that there are moments then.
I'm really open with my emotions.
Oh gosh, honey, just overflowing.
Yeah.
But that's been, I would say, that's probably been one of the biggest struggles that we've had in our relationship. Like it's awesome that we compliment each other so much on how different we are. Like praise God that He put us together in that way. But that also has been, the cause of a lot of hurt feelings and misunderstandings. And so, we have to keep on top of that and really respect how each of us is uniquely made and how we are going to communicate, which you said earlier is so important.
Yeah. Well, I also, sorry, I know we probably need to be done, but like learning our love styles and how we like I learned that when I get upset, I build walls up and stuff, and then I shut down. And then like I learned that he avoids things, and like how can I respond to him in that moment? So that's like a part of, surrendering like what you want in that moment, like not on our time. So trying to figure out how he works, like that takes a long time, but like trying to figure out what he needs in an emotional moment, what I need is a really big thing, I would say, to work on.
Full circle.
Yep.
Asking questions.
Yep.
Yeah. Well done, you two.
You
Well done.
too.
You're going to be just fine.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.